Hello everyone, the Honest Collector here to give you the truth on the Hasbro Marvel Legends Marvel Sentinel from X-Men '97. This is usually where I keep my phone and tripod, and this is where I'm going to have to keep it to get everything in frame, and it's still not really capturing that whole box there. So this is going to be a really interesting video. I'm probably going to actually pick the camera up around and move it. As you can see here, we're going to go over the box and stuff like that and what this figure has to offer. And looking at the box right off, first thing, I find it weird that they emulated a bubble or like a bubble around the stuff from the figure. Like they made it, they like did a closed box design of an open window for the Sentinel instead of just giving us the honestly it came really carefully packaged, so I honestly do have to commend Hasbro for that. It was in a box inside of a box inside of like another like whole carton thing, so I honestly I'll be okay with it because I don't want this guy coming in getting dented or anything. It says for ages 8 and up. This figure pre-order was $175 and then now retails for $220 and now is getting scalped by scalpers for $300 and up. I know someone paid $550 for this thing, which is mind-blowing because this figure does have a lot of things that I do want to talk about, good and bad, that I think make it really good and then also draw it back a lot. So this is my first kind of figure that's like this. I have no prior experience with the HasLab Sentinel, Giant Man, or Galactus. So bear with me here, but I've definitely done my research to be experienced enough to give you guys a proper understanding on this figure and what you're getting if you purchase it. So as you can see on the side, we have such a cool just a thing of artwork here with all the X-Men here. Flipping it to the back, we have what pretty much looks like a real size kind of thing. It's definitely still scaled smaller, but we do have all the X-Men fighting it here, and then we have a catalog list of all the figures that were made for the X-Men '97 line, and then you have the Sentinel in back here with all the pieces that it comes with and that black screen that you see for the images when you go to pre-order it on Hasbro. And then you have, like I said before, you have some group shots here of a bunch of Sentinels here, here, and up there as well, which is definitely enticing to get multiple of them. However, with this $220 price point, and then it being hiked up after that, and it already, I believe, being sold out and just popping in and out of stock and what's going on, I think I'm definitely going to just stick with this one. This was a gift to me by SJ Productions. Super generous of him to do, and because I wanted to do a stop motion with this Sentinel figure, and now that is possible. So stay tuned for what that's going to be like, and please check out his channel. It's right here, and I think you guys will definitely enjoy his content, doing Lego and action figure stop motion. So if any of that is your cup of tea, please go check him out. Thank you again to SJ Productions so much for this amazing gift. This came right around Christmas time, and it was super exciting. So then getting onto the top of the box, or actually looking on the other side, we have a really cool image of the Sentinel here. And I will be comparing it to the actual Sentinel figure because there are some things here that some people have excused and some people have said it's not necessary, but clearly when you're looking at this image and seeing how cool it looks, definitely is. But yeah, so X-Men '97 right here, and then looking at the top, if I can even fit it, yeah, you just have that cool X logo. So cool ways to display it all in all. I think it's cool this way, the front or the side. The back, not as much, really, but it also does give something cool to look at. So I usually like that with boxes, so I'm going to say good job, and then now let's get on to the actual figure. Okay, so looking at the actual Sentinel here, I know I've been calling it a figure like it's just your standard 6-inch, and it is definitely not. I can't get it fully into frame, but measuring this thing, give me a second, I'm going to be far away from the mic. Standing about 20, almost at 22 inches, 22 and a half inches. I don't know. I think so. But you can see right there, better than I can from that certain angle. that this thing is pretty freaking tall. It's got a lot going on while also not having much. How do I'm trying to figure out how to. Maybe I could just grab it this way, but I'll try to actually work around this thing being huge. I won't just. It won't just. I'll make sure it's not bad, and then I just blame it on the fact that it's a big figure. I'll try and actually give you guys a good look at what's going on. Like I said, I'll pick the camera up around it and stuff. Audio might be a little weird, but we'll try and figure that out. So, taking a look at the detail here, the detail for the head is really nice. You get a pretty nice look and light for the eyes. They don't actually do anything. They are just this regular painted red, which I think look really good though. There's even a little ring on the outside of them, and when you look up, it's completely black here. You're getting some kind of rubbing or whatever like that on the side, which I think is atrocious for this price. I really think that we should be paying for the quality of this, not just being a figure and then just zooming in and making it really large, but also just accounting like for the quality here for what's going on. Like if I rub this way, yeah, I'm gonna get some chipping and stuff like that, which to an extent I can understand, but at the same time, it's for paying for it while in stock. $220 is insane. That's like you can get some Hot Toys for like $220. Like, granted, it's not going to be the most craziest ones. They're probably going to be more towards like 300, 400, but $220 is still obviously a pretty big amount of money to be dropping on a essentially, adult or more adult collecting kind of toys. So it doesn't really excuse anything. There's not really any excuse to be given here. It's just not really acceptable. But looking at everything else, it's okay. There's definitely supposed to be shading here. There's some shading that's missing here. And I know cell shading has been really bogged down on in the past because the way Hasbro does it, to where people would just prefer that it's not even on the figure. But this is specifically an X-Men '97 Sentinel. We've had the comic book Sentinel before with the HasLab, and it looks beautiful. There's another chance here for this one to be good as well, because you see all this purple and stuff, and it's just bare plastic, even on the legs and everything like that. It feels like something's missing a bit. On here, it's just hollow plastic. It feels like something's missing. That little bit of line work would do so much, because you kind of have it here, you kind of have it here, but it's just these thin sculpted and painted lines that's not really doing anything except for where it absolutely needs to be. And that's always been an issue with Hasbro's figures, but it would go a long, long way for something that's priced so highly. But looking at everything else, I'm gonna have to put this guy pretty far back. He actually looks pretty good, all things considered. The anatomy is not bad. I don't think there's really anything that's disproportioned here. I think it just looked better in the cartoon. So there could be things that should be tweaked a little. Maybe make the shoulders a little bigger. And I know it's not supposed to look the most human-like, but also he's given thighs, knees, fingers, elbows. So yes, it also kind of is. So I don't really want to say that, just because it's a robot, it's, you know what I mean? It still should look imposing. There's a lot of other things that are robotic that look very, very humanoid that are properly proportioned. So now turning him around to the back here. Also, again, more just kind of that bare feel to it. And I'll get onto the accessories later, and that'll bring up some more things that I have to say about it. But going off pure aesthetic, not talking about the articulation, you can tell this guy's very ratcheted, of course. We're just getting these big cuts in the elbows, and it's the same thing for the knees too. It's just these huge cuts and just divots that make it look really cheap, and it adds on top of the whole. There's something that could have been more here, and we're just not getting it. And it just looks odd when you can see the plastic inside and everything. So I'm not a big fan of that. Everything else, the way it's connected, I'm fine with. I think what you can see like a little bit in here, but it's like really not a big deal. There's some things that I'll be fair on and just reasonable, where it's like, okay, that's, if you complain about that, it's kind of ridiculous. One thing that I don't like is how visible it is that these fingers are very clearly different colored than the actual hand here. This looks on camera more of like a bluish purple, and then this is just more of a desaturated bright kind of purple that goes with the rest of this, but you could see it doesn't match at all, and it looks really weird, and even in person you can just tell. And then all the fingers are articulated, so sometimes this is where sculpted hands would actually work better, but also at the same time I really do like the whole being able to hold figures and stuff like that. I know the fingers look really weird now, but if you just properly position them, they'll look completely fine. And I don't think they actually look that bad. Like, you can tell, you could see the ridge in the thumb and everything like that. Like, it's not just these straight up and down like sausage things. They actually do look like fingers, and I think can look pretty good if you pose them properly, as I'll show later. You definitely can't get the same kind of look that you can with the sculpted hands and stuff like that, because there's still some limitations you have to having swivel hinges and then the discs right here. But there is potential with this, and I definitely don't mind there being articulated fingers. It's just, why are they such a different color from the rest? The butterfly joint in here is completely different than this, and it's the same color with that, but it's all mismatching here and here. So it does look a little odd, and I even think that this is a different purple from that purple. So that's something that really bugs me, because this is an expensive figure. And it sucks too, because I got this as a gift, and I absolutely, like, if I were just going purely off of like collector, not really reviewer, I would be loving this thing, because I love this figure, especially that I got it from a really close friend. But if anything, I think it would kind of accentuate my distaste for how they executed this figure a little more, because I really wanted it to be good. But there's these things that definitely do hold it back. But I can't wait to get onto the good things, because there's also a lot of things that make this figure shine, like the accessories. And I'll get onto that now, because I think it is something that needs to be talked about. So you definitely get a interesting slate, because the fact that the hands move already, the fingers and everything, there's no alternate hands that you'll really need. So as you can see, I'm just straight up disassembling this guy, because he comes with a lot of alternate pieces. So going over these pieces individually while I put them on, you can see obviously he has the completely regular kind of crown piece, and then, like I said, that faceplate zoomed in, or just getting a closer look at that, looks really good. And then you get the chest piece here, which I think is done decently, really nice. And then now the real cool part is having this part, where it's completely tattered up and completely destroyed. You got half the eye coming out, and I don't know how I feel about this one being lower than that one. Maybe if it was up and there was some wire detail that made the eye hang lower, that would have been insane. But I can excuse it for now, since it's literally being taken apart on the half side, so I don't really know how it works, but this is something that I'll let slide. You get some really nice sculpt work and everything, and no, those wires are not painted, unfortunately. I really wish they were, to just hype up that detail. But this part does look really nice, and that metallic little sheen to it looks really good, but it looks odd when it's paired next to complete gray plastic. But I won't get too much on that. I just do think that it's weird that we're getting some sheen, some shine, and then nothing. So I don't really know how that works. But anyway, on the top here, we do get the broken crown top piece here, which even has a little bit of that rust silver, or almost gold copper, on the front here. So that's your indicator that goes on the front right there. And that looks really, really cool, especially when you look at it from here and see that it goes almost to the back of the head. I think that looks awesome. And then looking at that chest piece, that you have like that faded red that going out, This chest piece goes over with 3 slash marks and a few cracks and stuff. And then you have the wires, which are painted and sculpted really, really nicely. I really like that. And this just simply pops right there because there's a groove on this side that has you flip it up, which I definitely don't think should be this visible. Looks a little weird like that, but I don't personally mind it, and I don't think it's something that's too crazy because, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of shots like this, but I don't think it's something that's going to be really accentuated if in any shadow or any light that's not completely showing right under there. And then you still see that faded red, which just looks really cool. And then you have the wires coming out, and since it's a piece on top of it, it really looks like that chest piece is just broken and there's so much in there and everything. It really sells the whole thing. And then once you put it all together, it looks really, really nice. As long as you ignore that there's no battle damage on the rest of the figure. All right, so now talking about articulation, you can see I'm bringing the camera pretty far back because I'm gonna try something. Okay, so this is kind of just a test to see how it sounds. It's very echoey in the room that I'm in, and I want to see what happens when I put the microphone on me. Okay, so this is kind of the best I could do, reaching around more here and showing you the articulation. In the head, we have pretty good range up, and yeah, you can see some of the scratches a little here, unfortunately on the side. But so he can look this far up, which I actually think is pretty good for a big figure like this. I could take off the head and show you what we got going on. It's hard to get off on camera. We're gonna take this off here. There we go. So popping this off, you see that we have a dumbbell joint, which is really nicely done. Tons of range in the actual ball itself because it's not too pushed inward here. You actually have a decent amount of range for the actual peg. And then we have this ball that's up here with this kind of interesting piece that just slips right into here. So you just pop that back on. And of course it's not working. Or did it work? There we go. There it is. So yeah, he can look up this far. He can look down that far. But then if you try and tuck this in a little more, you won't exactly be able to get in there. But pushing it, that's how far he can look down. Which, let's see, standing him up straight. That actually looks pretty good. I don't mind that. I think that actually looks pretty nice. And that's not even counting what happens when you just put that torso down that much. So that's nice there. And then I'll get onto the torso articulation in a bit. Obviously, he turns all the way around here. And then he has a pretty decent amount of head pivoting, which I actually wasn't expecting. So, yeah. And then we go onto the arms. All of these joints are on ratchets, so they're not really gonna give out so much. And then even if they do, won't really have to worry about that. You can always just fix it here. You are seeing a little more pins and just holes and stuff like that here, which I think is kind of necessary. They are visible on the inside, but not the outside, which I think is still nice that they did. And the arms, you can see, move up this high here. Not exactly 90. It feels like there's almost one more notch that it could move. It's like just barely doing it. So that's kind of unfortunate, I'd say. And then moving them back down, obviously, you're going to get the range all the way around. But just letting you know, this thing is super loud, as you can see, or hear, actually. And then the double jointed elbows are nothing impressive, unfortunately. They're basically just hitting 90 because of the way that they're doing this. They should have put this out a little more, given us a little more room, because you see we have all this space here, and then you can't really, you can kind of get it there, but it's still going to fight. It's still going to rub against here because they didn't cut enough out of the bicep here. They cut a decent amount here, but not here. And you have this glove. So you're really not going to get good range. I tried to finagle it. I tried to push it,
but it's just not really going to get anywhere better than 90. So yeah, and then of course you have your bicep swivel here, which is fine. And then no articulation for the gloves. You do have the hand rotation, the standard Hasbro hinge, moving up this much, which honestly, for someone who's shooting like power blasts, it's not as much as I would want it to go out. I would want it to go a lot more up. But yeah, so moving the fingers and everything out of the way, this is that power blast kind of position you're going to get. And it's almost aiming not only just downward, but you do get these power blast pieces, and which I'll deconstruct and go over in a second because there's multiple pieces to this. It's shooting off at an angle where it's going that way. So if he's aiming here, it's going to go off here. Which I don't know how much that'll bug you, but that really bugs me because it's such a simple thing to fix and they just didn't. And I just don't understand how something like that just doesn't get mentioned or fixed or tweaked or anything like that. It just really bugs me because now if I want to pose this on my shelf and have him shoot out those pieces, it's going to be to the side and it's going to look really weird when you look at it just from a shelf perspective. So not even the, well, if you just put on a shelf, not even that kind of excuse can really cover it, which sucks. And it's even more apparent with the bigger one, this one here, where it's just completely off to the side direction. It doesn't match at all. But something that is to note, which is I guess more accessory wise, you can, if you do have the HasLab Sentinel, you can put those tendrils inside this one here, which is really cool. So yeah, all the articulated fingers, they definitely got not looser, but like they were a little stiff out of the package. But then as soon as you move them, they end up being fine. I haven't tested holding a figure, which I will do before I end the articulation segment. But yeah, so you do get all the articulated fingers here, like I showed you, all the swivel hinges here, and then the actual disc, little mini disc hinges here. And then you get that butterfly kind of joint here, which is really good for the thumb. I've already talked about the aesthetics with the fingers versus the actual mold of the hand. And then he moves it down that much, which really isn't much at all. Just feels like they just didn't take anything into account for these, for the hand articulation here. And then like I showed you before, you get that swivel here. And then moving on to the torso, let's move these out. You get this much crunch down, which I want to say isn't bad. This guy's a little odd to stand. You just got to find the right positioning. People are saying that he doesn't have like any right positioning. I don't think that's true because you definitely can stand him straight up and he definitely has enough leg movement for it. It's just odd sometimes to find that place for it. But let's see. Move the legs too far back. There we go. So moving him straight forward, that's how much crunch he's going to get, which isn't the most. It's not exactly noticeable, but it is going to help him look down at whoever he's fighting. Most of the time, obviously, going to be the X-Men. So yeah, and then you do get some back. Well, I can't remember the word. You get some bending back here, which again, it's not the most, but it definitely will help in adjusting with some minor poses and stuff if it's like on the ground or something. And then you do get the twist here, which I don't know how to feel about leaving it like this because I usually would be able to kind of trust, okay, no, I'm sure it'll warp back in place, but like we see with the Maximum Hulk, that soft kind of rubbery piece that's like this is tearing. So I don't know how to feel about this. I wouldn't recommend leaving it on a twisted angle if you're going to display it. You can definitely do it for like some poses and stuff and put it right back and it's going to just go right back to being so tapered here where it looks really nice. But just be careful about leaving it like that. I wouldn't try it. And then the side to side here is decent. It's not bad. I don't think overall the articulation is bad. It just feels like, standard. It could be a little more and it would be nicer to get some more like crunch down and stuff like that, especially because this is taking up a lot of real estate, a lot of shelf space. It would be nice to have him crunch down, be able to do some more things aside from just look tall, look big, you know what I mean? And if you're going to have people buy multiple of these things, you definitely want it to deliver in that aspect so that way they can fit more of these things. The Sentinel can't even really sit down properly, unfortunately. I'll test that theory more later, but it's it's definitely a hassle to do. So it's just really not selling people on paying over 200 or over 175 to get another one of these when they're already experiencing some displeasures and you already have not as much effort put into it as should be. So now going on to the hips here, he kicks out this much, which yeah, you can get an extra snap in there and that's fine. So that's actually pretty good. I think that's nice. And then he does one notch back, which is good. And then the hips moving out, nothing really crazy. Nothing at all. You might get some. Again, I think when trying to put this guy low on your shelf to not take up so much space, the hips definitely matter. They're not really able to split out that much, so it kind of sucks. And then if you want to do some like twisting with the thighs and stuff, you can to get it to really kind of work out in your favor. But this is a bigger figure, so you're not going to be able to like really push everything out as much as you want to, like a Spider-Man. You're just going to kind of have to deal with it, unfortunately. But I'm sure you can find some ways, but it's definitely going to put this big figure to the test. And with it being so heavy and weighing so much, it's gonna take a lot of weight and wear and tear out of, I think, the inside to keep up with the pose that you want to keep it in. So that's something that I worry about too. It's just Hasbro. The problem is Hasbro can't do what they've been doing with a figure like this if you want it to hold up over time. So it's super uneasy and super uncertain to tell, is it going to keep up like this if I put it in this pose? Kind of like the problem that Hot Toys deals with, but it's a little more understandable and you know what to expect when you're purchasing a figure like that. Here, you don't really find out until you're like, damn, I have it. But I don't want to make it seem like I'm just knocking this figure. It does have decent hip articulation in some areas, but in the areas that it really needs, it doesn't have. But articulating the knee, that works really well. Let me try and get that light better. That works really well. How long have you guys been able to see this whole just circle for the light? I'm sorry. But I'm trying to get as much light as I can while also showing this off properly without it being so awkward. But like you saw, that's the knee articulation there. Again, these ugly joints that are just super, super obvious and noticeable. So you have that thigh swivel like I showed you before. And then you have boot swivel, actually, which is really nice. And then you have ankle swivel as well down here. So if you wanted to, I think I'm going to try and change the angle a bit so I can show you this even better. But what you can do, and what I've done, if I want it to look like this, is let's say the Sentinel, it's down, you know, like the X-Men took it down, that's how you want to display it. You can rotate this boot around. It's hard to do without twisting the thigh. But you could twist this around, and you can like bend that down here. So now, hold on, if you switch it like that, you get more movement out of this ankle piece here, which is really nice. So again, if you are laying it down like that, that actually looks pretty nice. And it covers up a gap of the joints and stuff. So I think that's pretty interesting, and that's definitely something that you could do. And I honestly, it's more, some people are like, well, I shouldn't have to. I feel like it's a little understandable to have to do that with a figure like this. And it has a really good result in covering up kind of an ugly joint. And you can do it this way too to get some more ankle pivot here. So you can kind of move this around how you want if you really want to finagle that much to get these poses that you want. So I think that's a pretty cool and neat thing. And then with the ankle articulation standard, that's how much it's going to move down. This is how much it's going to move up with no real interference aside from this sculpt piece right there. And then, like I showed you before, the ankle pivot can fluctuate depending on where you have this piece. So I think that's interesting. And that's going to be it for the articulation. Okay, so I really hope that wasn't too bad. Sorry if it was, but that is the articulation for this Sentinel figure. And now we get to go into my favorite part, especially with something like this, the size comparisons. By the way, before I do that, I never got onto the Power Blast pieces I was talking about. So when you get it out of the box, you're going to get it like this, which is nice, but it is automatically going to be warped and a little off to the side. And then so are these pieces here. You can see it's not exactly supposed to look like this. Like this one's warped off to the side. It's supposed to be like that. They're just supposed to be a lot straighter. So it comes off a little weird. And that's like that for both of them because you do get two of these pieces. So that's really a shame. And that's annoying. So to go out of your way and then have to fix that, it's annoying to me. So anyway, you get this piece here, and these are two different sizes, and what I'm about to show you works the same way with both of these, because these two, you get two of these pieces, and then different sizes. So this goes into there like that, and there's these little pieces here that keep it in place. So that's gonna stay like that, and then it probably will come off a little easier if you just want it to look like this and not have the super big piece here. But what doesn't make sense to me is that this piece is majority of it is yellow, and then it fades into this orangey red, which looks nice right here. But then behind it, you have this huge splash piece where it's like red and the yellow. So it doesn't exactly, I mean, it looks nice here, but it doesn't exactly make so much sense to me. This isn't a huge complaint of mine because I'm really not going to care. But it's just something that I noticed. So it goes from the red to yellow to just yellow to then back to red. I don't know if it helps with just that splash, that kind of like huge array of colors, but I don't know. It feels like it could have been done a little differently, but I still think it looks really cool if it wasn't so warped. And then you do have the other piece that is shorter. But what's odd to me is that there are peg holes on the bottom, and these pieces do plug into it, both of them. So why are you going to have one that's just extremely long and the other one that's short? That doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, sure, if you are going to army build, you can just put both of the long ones there, but it's still going to be uneven for the other one, and it's just going to constantly be a thing of annoyance that really shouldn't be. We should have gotten two of the long ones and two of the short ones, and it just feels like the only accessories you're really getting are to just change up the face and chest pieces, which is kind of, there's a lot of things that are just falling short here in terms of aesthetic, accessories, and articulation. There's things, so many things that could really be better, and that's just kind of dowering how I feel about this Sentinel figure. With it being $175 being pre-ordered or being backed, I guess, and then now 220, it couldn't cut it for me. But now even after that, since there's such limited supply for some reason, now it's going up to like $300, $400. Someone paid $550 for this. No shot, and it's way shorter than the HasLabs. So these prices are just insane for this figure that's already pretty cut corner. So yeah, now we'll do the size comparisons, and then I'll go on to the final verdict. It might not be as long because I've already expressed so many of those opinions throughout this segment here. Okay, so since I don't exactly see the point of standing a bunch of figures that are ultimately going to look around the same size or just tinier next to the Sentinel, I have a group of them here of who I want to pair next to him. And we're going to get a little crazy with it because I see the Sentinel with multiple purposes. So he's going to be in my Ninja Turtle stop motion, he's going to be in my Deadpool and Wolverine stop motion, and in my Sonic the Hedgehog stop motion. So we're going to get a little crazy with the size comparisons here. But here he is next to a few of the other Deadpool and Wolverine figures that I have in my collection. And then you have the Hydra Bob 2-pack Deadpool and Bob there. You have the Mafex Wolverine in the back there, Maximum Deadpool, the Deadpool and Wolverine movie one, the CT Toys brown suit, and the Heat Claws Wolverine. And then since it's starting to get a little too crowded here, I am obviously, of course, going to switch them out for some of the other figures that I have. Okay, so here is the A-list Marvel Legends 85, Mark 85 Iron Man, the Infinity Saga Thor, and the 20th anniversary for Marvel Legends, inspired by Toy Biz Hulk. Here he stands next to, I believe, the Bonebreaker Build-A-Figure Wave Cable, the reissue of the Fantastic Four Doctor Doom, the Secret Wars Brown Suit Wolverine, and the Magic the Gathering Battle Damage Spider-Man. And again, who says you can't have fun with it? So let's say Dr. Robotnik built a huge Sentinel robot. You have Super Shadow from the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, and then you have the Knuckles and the Tails from that movie as well, those line of figures. You have the Sonic Prime Rusty Rose figure, and then the Sonic Prime, I think, I don't know her name, but I don't know what they call her, but it's the Pirate Rouge. So here he stands next to a bunch of some of the NECA figures that I have in my collection of the TMNT. Like I said, with the whole Krang thing, I think this would just be like a fun idea to just mix and match. So we have the Image Comics. I think it's the Image, right? Or is it the Mirage? Pretty sure it's the Mirage Comics, Baxter Stockman, and then you have the Return to New York Leonardo there. I don't have the 2012 one yet. That's coming soon. And I haven't done a video on the 2012 Turtles because I want to do a full. I got the full set, so I want to do a video covering the whole wave, or the first half of it, I guess. And then the Archie comic Shredder over there, and then behind him we have the Jada Toys Ryu, in case you want to do some Marvel vs. Capcom crazy stuff. And then like I said, the Baxter Stockman. I think these look pretty cool. They still all look extremely small in comparison, which is exactly how it should be. And I think it's just really cool to see. And then just because I realized I did have them on me, all of them, I forgot about these. Here are the Best Action IDW Turtles. And then last but not least, here he stands next to the Sonic Jack Pacific Movie 3 Sonic the Hedgehog, which I guess I should have actually put him right there, but there you can see. All right, so here I have Deadpool and Wolverine in this sick pose with the Sentinel, and I think this is exactly what people are wanting to see. This is exactly what people are wanting in general from the Sentinel, and it definitely delivers in this aspect, because just looking at this just makes me at first want to say, this is like the best thing in my collection. Like, this is insane, because there's a lot of options you can do with the other figures surrounding it, but the Sentinel as a whole, for the $175 pre-order price point, I'm going to say it's just passable. And I usually say that, like, that's kind of how a lot of Marvel Legends are, but especially this one, because there's definitely, it's just really obvious of what could have been done, what should be more, but just kind of isn't. But at the same time, they do deliver a lot. And I think there's so much playability with this thing. And maybe on one side, it's a good thing that it's not as tall and huge as the first Sentinel. I think this is definitely a differentiation in option of which one you would want. If you don't want something that's super big but still towers over the other figures like this is more up your alley. And I can see why that appeals to more people, with people having different reasons to justify even the $220 price point. So at the $175 pre-order price point or backing price point, I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10. And then with the $220 price point, it's going to drop down to like a 5. And then anything above that is just crazy. But this is what they're keeping it at, is a $220 price point. So yeah, in stock, if you're going to get it now, it's going to get like a 6 out of 10. And then for the 175, if you backed this, yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think this is pretty fun. And I'm definitely going to have more fun taking pictures and stuff like this. This is awesome to me. This might be how I even display the Sentinel with these figures. So I will definitely keep you guys posted and updated and let you know what goes on, because there's definitely more fun to be had with this figure. There's definitely more videos to come too, so if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And without further ado, we're going to get into the outro. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, please give this video a like. And if you're new, like I said before, please subscribe and turn on notifications so I can give you the truth on the next one. Thank you guys again. Spread peace, love, and be greater together, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.